This is Ginny Brant with Unleash Your God-Given Healing with Lifestyle Changes. Today, we're going to look at 10 toxic cosmetic and personal care products you should be cautious about using. The most eye-opening scientific fact that I learned from both my husband's and my cancer journey: whatever touches our skin is absorbed into our bloodstream and it circulates throughout our bodies. In fact, it's estimated that 60 to 70% of what we put on our skin is absorbed into our bodies. Before cancer, I always assumed that as long as I washed those chemicals off my skin, I was perfectly fine. Think again, how could I miss this important fact for so long? I also did not read labels on my cosmetics and personal care products. The average American woman uses 12 per day or more, and the average male uses about 6. That adds up daily. The European Union has banned about 1,300 chemicals in personal care products, while our country has only banned about 11. The European Union restricts ingredients until they are proven safe, while the U.S. tends to allow ingredients without evidence and only removes them years later after post-market research uncovers major issues. After being diagnosed with an aggressive cancer for which I had no genetics or risk factors for, it forced me to dig deeper and begin reading labels. We must realize that we are consuming toxic chemicals when we apply personal care products that contain chemicals to our body. Some things that we put on our skin may cause skin irritation and allergic reactions, but as an estrogen-driven cancer survivor, I'm more concerned about the chemicals that are endocrine disruptors and carcinogens. Absolutely more concerned. The FDA does not regulate chemicals in personal care products, so we must learn to read the labels. The cosmetic industry is like the wild, wild west, and anything goes. With no government oversight, the cosmetic and personal care product companies are left to decide what goes in their products. And they're even allowed to not list all of the ingredients. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that mimic hormones and disrupt the body's natural hormones. Carcinogens are substances or chemicals that have the potential to cause cancer. Something to think about. So here are some of the toxic chemicals found in common cosmetic and personal care products. Quaternum 15, methylene glycol, formaldehyde, mercury, aluminum, phthalates, parabens, PFAS, or forever chemicals, just to name a few. My videos on parabens and also on phthalates will be referenced in the show notes below. You need to become familiar with these two terms. So here are the 10 products, because of this, that you should be cautious about using. Number 1 is deodorant. We apply deodorant and antiperspirants daily or risk losing friends, right? But did you know that they contain fragrance, which is nothing more than chemicals? Aluminum, a toxic metal used in antiperspirants to block sweat ducts, and those ducts were made to sweat. Parabens, which is used as a preservative, but is also an endocrine disruptor linked to breast cancer. Phthalates, which can cause hormone imbalances, and triclosan. an antibacterial banned by the FDA in soaps, yet allowed to use right under our arms and close to our breast tissue. Here's what I now use, and there are many deodorants out there that you can use. These are not the only ones. This is made by Native, but it does not contain toxic chemicals, organic, and this is made by Primally Pure. So just two of many examples. Number 2 on the list is hair color. This is one of the worst and contains ammonia, lead acetate, coal tar, DMD hydantoin, which can release formaldehyde and parabens, just to name a few. Not on my head and not that close to my brain. No thanks. But perms are just as bad, and I had 3 a year for most of my life. But no more. There are hair coloring products which do not contain as many toxic chemicals, so ask your hairdresser about these. Number 3 is hairspray. It's a necessity for both women and some men, which contains propellant gases that push the spray out. Propylene glycol, an endocrine disruptor used to make antifreeze. PUP, a chemical made from petroleum that holds the hair in place, and phthalates, which are banned in Europe. Again, these chemicals are applied on your head and can also be inhaled. And shampoos and mousse are usually not much better. Here are the organic products that I use instead, made by John Masters, and this is not the only company doing this. This is just what I use. Here's the shampoo I use with peppermint and rosemary. This is the mousse that I use, and quite honestly, it doesn't work as well as the chemical mousses, but it doesn't damage my brain, right? And here is the hairspray that my husband and I both use. Number 4 is nail polish, which is probably one of the most toxic as far as inhalation. It contains formaldehyde. Isn't that the chemical we used to dissect a frog in science lab in 7th grade? Toluene, phthalates, a plastic and endocrine disrupting hormone, resin, another plasticizer, and camphor, a toxic oil. It's unknown as to how much these chemicals could actually be absorbed through the nail, but just the inhalation is quite concerning. After my cancer journey, I no longer polish my nails or go into nail salons to breathe all the chemicals. There are nail products such as Dazzle Dry that have less toxic chemicals. And if you go into a nail salon, make sure it's well ventilated because you don't want to inhale all those chemicals. Now, number 5 is soap. And soap is something we use every day that contains more chemicals than one can possibly imagine, such as sodium lauryl sulfate used to make the suds, antibacterial chemicals, 1,4-dioxane, parabens, and all those chemical fragrances. Good news is that there are many soaps on the market that do not contain these chemicals, and here are just a few. There are many. This is Dr. Bronner's lavender soap. And this is One with Nature, a soap that is completely organic with natural materials. The No Shaving Cream. This is something almost every man uses and may contain benzene, a known carcinogen, and titanium dioxide, as well as sulfates, phthalates, formaldehyde, and parabens. Read your labels. Use coconut oil instead. Number 7 is sunscreen. I'm not sure if I'm more concerned about the sunscreen chemicals or the damaging effects of the sun. We should be concerned about both. Sunscreens generally contain oxybenzene, an endocrine disrupting hormone that's linked to birth defects and elevated liver enzymes, among other things. It also contains 2 other endocrine disrupting hormones called homosalate and oxytocin. You go to Hawaii or Aruba, in places like this, they will not allow you to use sunscreens with these chemicals to protect the coral reef. I suggest you protect yourself too. There are sunscreens on the market that do not contain these chemicals, and I use some of these sunscreens, but I try to stay out of the sun as much as possible by wearing hats, cover-ups, umbrellas, etc. And here are some of the sunscreens that I use. You can also make your own that do not contain these chemicals. Here is Badger, made with zinc oxide to block out the sun. And this is one made by doTERRA that also does not contain these chemicals. Now there's makeup. These essentials help women to improve their appearance, but they come at more of a cost in more ways than one. Basic foundation may contain lead. It may contain sulfates, retinol, 4,1-dioxane, ethylene oxide, and ethanolamines, which are banned in Europe. There is no safe level of lead in the bloodstream, and lead is commonly found in many lipsticks at varying degrees. Other metals in lipstick include chromium, cadmium, and aluminum. I now use makeup which meets the European standards, such as Juice Beauty. And here is a lipstick made by Burt's Bees. So here's the Juice Beauty, and here's lipsticks, 2 of them made by Burt's Bees. So look into this. There are many companies. 9 is mascara, and this is one of the most used cosmetics, which I don't use anymore. Why? Because most contain mercury as a preservative, coal tar, formaldehyde, parabens, phthalates, and sulfates. All these chemicals can irritate your eyes. Again, there are cosmetic companies driven by the European standards which do not contain these toxic chemicals. But I still don't want all these particles getting into my eyes, and that's just my own personal choice. And then there's the anti-aging creams. Oh, how we love these, especially as we age, but they contain retinol, which can make you more susceptible to skin cancer. PTFE, a chemical found in Teflon. Can you imagine putting Teflon on your face? And PFOA, one of the forever chemicals, and both are linked to cancer. Parabens and mercury may also be found in these cream. Read your labels. Here is the anti-aging cream that I use that absolutely contains only natural ingredients. It's called Dream Cream, and it's made by Purity Woods. And there will be a link in the show notes below where you can buy these and get a discount. Another skincare products I use are by doTERRA. This is their serum. I use one of their moisturizers, cleansing, and astringent. And so, again, these are just some of many. In these examples of the 10 toxic personal care products, we have seen common chemicals of parabens, phthalates, formaldehyde, aluminum, and mercury over and over and over again. With many of these chemicals banned in Europe for use in cosmetics and on the skin, we must read labels and look for cleaner alternatives. They are out there today. We must also be the sheriff. Since in our own country, up till now, we're living in the wild, wild west. As far as these chemicals in cosmetics are concerned, they simply aren't regulated. And so if we're going to protect ourselves, our skin, and our family, we must learn to read labels. We must look for alternative products which contain natural ingredients, remembering that anything we put on our skin is absorbed into our body and circulated throughout by our bloodstream. Now, if you don't believe me on that, if you've ever had a doctor to give you medication by applying it to your skin, they do it to avoid it going through the digestive system and going directly into your bloodstream. So believe me, this is a concern in these cosmetic and personal care products. I hope this information has been helpful for you today. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, share it, and also click the notification bell so you will know when I post new information. Until next time, Here's to your good health by learning to read labels and watching what you use and put on your skin. And may God bless.